The Voxari had stayed hidden from humanity for centuries, deliberately concealing their existence, until today, when one rebel Voxari leader would risk everything to reveal to humans the staggering secret behind the Voxari's isolation. Jeremy Wright couldn't believe what he was seeing on the deep space scans. An unmistakable repeating signal, pulsing from a distant star system, unlike anything he'd ever encountered. He knew in his gut this was it. Proof of alien intelligence. Proof that we were not alone. Jeremy raced to alert his superiors at the secret government facility where he worked as an astrophysicist. At first, they were skeptical. But as Jeremy laid out the data, they couldn't deny the facts. This signal was unnatural. It had to be artificial. Alien. High-level meetings were called. Debates raged. Some wanted to keep this discovery classified, but Jeremy argued passionately that they had a duty to investigate, to learn the truth. Finally, the decision was made. They would send a deep space probe to the signal's source. Months passed as the probe journeyed across the stars. As it approached the distant planet, everyone at Mission Control held their breath. The first images came in, blurry at first, then sharpening. Gasps filled the room. The probe's cameras revealed gleaming alien cities, towering structures, advanced technology far beyond anything on Earth. But when they tried to establish contact, only silence answered. The aliens, who Jeremy dubbed the Voxari based on some imagery analysis, seemed to be deliberately ignoring the probe. But why? What were they hiding? Jeremy made his case to leadership. They needed to send a manned mission to make direct contact with the Voxari and learn their secrets. It was a risk, but the potential reward was too great. After heated debates, the mission was approved. A crew was selected, and Jeremy would help lead the expedition as head scientist. As their ship approached the Voxari planet, tensions were high. Scanners showed a Voxari warship moving to intercept. Suddenly, a transmission came through. The Voxari angrily warned the humans to leave their space immediately and never return or face deadly consequences. The mission commander wanted to pull back in the face of this hostility, but Jeremy argued fiercely that they had to press on, that the Voxari were clearly hiding something immense, something that could change everything for humanity. They had to find out the truth. Just as the argument reached a fever pitch, another message arrived. This one from an individual Voxari named Korvac, high-ranking based on his communication signature. Korvac urged Jeremy to slip down to the planet's surface to meet with him alone. That Korvac would reveal the real reason behind the Voxari's secrecy and isolation. Jeremy knew it could be a trap, but his gut told him this was the only way to uncover the facts. He agreed to Korvac's rendezvous. Alone, Jeremy flew a shuttle to the coordinates Korvac transmitted, while the rest of the crew watched nervously from orbit. The shuttle touched down near a remote compound. Jeremy saw a single Voxari figure emerge to meet him. His hand hovered near his sidearm as he exited the shuttle. The Voxari looked uneasy and apprehensive. "I am Korvac," the alien said after an anxious greeting. "Come inside. I will tell you everything, but I warn you the truth will shake your civilization to its foundations. You will finally learn why we Voxari dared not make contact, why we hid from humanity for so long." Jeremy followed Korvac into the compound, pulse racing, knowing that whatever he was about to discover would change the course of human history forever. Jeremy's heart raced as he followed Korvac into the compound, the door sealing shut behind them with a hiss. The Voxari led him down a dimly lit corridor, their footsteps echoing off the smooth metallic walls. Jeremy's mind swirled with questions, but he bit his tongue, waiting for Korvac to speak. As they entered a small, sparse room, Korvac turned to face Jeremy, his expression grave. "What I am about to tell you will change everything," he said, his voice low and urgent. "The truth about the Voxari, about our origins and our connection to humanity." Jeremy nodded, his throat dry. "I'm listening." Korvac took a deep breath, then began to speak. He told Jeremy of the Voxari's ancient ancestors, an advanced civilization that had thrived on Earth millions of years before humans evolved. They had developed incredible technologies, unlocking the secrets of interstellar travel and pushing the boundaries of science and exploration. But then they had foreseen a cataclysmic event, a disaster that would ravage Earth and threaten their very existence. Faced with extinction, they had made a momentous decision. They constructed massive arc ships, marvels of engineering, and set out into the stars, seeking a new home and a chance at survival. After a long and treacherous journey, they found this world, Korvac said, gesturing around them. They settled here, building a new civilization, becoming the Voxari. But they never forgot their roots, their connection to Earth. Jeremy's mind reeled as he processed Korvac's words. The Voxari were not just aliens, but distant cousins, descendants of an ancient Earth race. It was almost too much to comprehend. Korvac continued, explaining how the Voxari had watched humanity's rise from afar, observing as they slowly developed their own technology and reached for the stars. But the Voxari leadership had been divided on how to approach this new sentient species. Some believed it was their duty to guide and nurture humanity, to share their knowledge and help them avoid the pitfalls that had nearly doomed the Voxari. But others, the isolationists, feared that humans were too primitive, too violent. They worried that any contact would lead to conflict, to a disastrous war that could devastate both races. The debate raged for generations, Korvac said, his voice tinged with frustration. The isolationists argued that humanity wasn't ready, that they would seek to exploit us, to take our technology for their own gain. They believed the best path was to remain hidden, to let humans progress at their own pace, intervening only if absolutely necessary. Jeremy could understand the isolationists' concerns, even as he bristled at the idea of the Voxari watching from the shadows, withholding the truth. But Korvac, he realized, was different. "You don't agree with them," Jeremy said. "You think it's time for the truth to come out." Korvac nodded, a fierce light in his eyes. "I've been working in secret, gathering evidence, trying to build support. I believe that your mission, your presence here, represents an opportunity, a chance to initiate contact, to begin the process of reunification between our two peoples." Jeremy's heart swelled with a mix of emotions, excitement, fear, a sense of profound responsibility. He knew that Korvac was taking a huge risk, that he would face severe consequences if his actions were discovered. "I agree with you," Jeremy said, meeting Korvac's gaze. "The time for secrecy is over. Humanity deserves to know the truth, and we have to find a way to build a new relationship, a new future together." Korvac opened his mouth to respond, but suddenly alarms blared throughout the compound, the walls flashing with warning lights. The Voxari's eyes widened with fear. "They've discovered my activities," he said urgently, grabbing Jeremy by the shoulders. "You must go now. Get back to your ship. Share what you've learned with your crew, your leaders on Earth." Jeremy shook his head, reluctant to leave Korvac behind. "Come with me," he urged. "We can protect you." But Korvac pushed him towards the exit, pressing a small data device into his hand. "I'll buy you as much time as I can, but you must go. The fate of both our peoples could depend on it." With a final, desperate look, Jeremy turned and ran, racing through the compound as the sound of approaching security teams grew louder. His heart pounded in his ears as he reached his shuttle, leaping inside and firing up the engines. As he blasted off, speeding away from the planet's surface, Jeremy clutched the data device Korvac had given him, a lifeline of information that could change the course of history. He docked with the human ship, his mind spinning with the weight of the revelation, the enormity of the task ahead. He knew that the path forward would not be easy, that there would be challenges and obstacles at every turn. But he also knew that he had to try, that the future of both races could depend on his actions in the coming days and weeks. As he stepped onto the bridge of the ship, facing the confused and anxious faces of his crew, Jeremy took a deep breath, ready to begin the next phase of this incredible journey. Jeremy's heart pounded as he docked with the human ship. The moment the airlock cycled open, he burst onto the bridge, clutching the data device Korvac had given him. "Commander, everyone, you need to hear this," he said, breathless. "The Voxari, they're not just aliens. They're our ancestors." The bridge crew turned to stare at him, expressions ranging from confusion to disbelief. Commander Harris stepped forward, brow furrowed. "Right, what are you talking about? Start from the beginning." Jeremy plugged the data device into the ship's computer and began explaining everything Korvac had told him. As the evidence flashed across the screens, genetic markers, ancient Earth artifacts, historical records, the crew's skepticism turned to shock. "This can't be real," Harris muttered, but his voice lacked conviction. "It is," Jeremy insisted, "and now we have a chance to reconnect with them, to learn from each other." Harris shook his head. "No, our orders are clear. We report back to Earth immediately and let the higher-ups decide how to handle this." "But sir," Jeremy argued, "we may never get another opportunity like this. If we leave now—" He was cut off by a shrill alarm from the sensor station. Lieutenant Chen's eyes widened as she read the display. "Sir, multiple Voxari warships incoming. They'll be on us in minutes." "Damn it," Harris cursed. "Prepare for emergency jump. We're getting out of here." "Wait!" Jeremy shouted. "If we run now, we'll confirm their worst fears about us. Let me take a shuttle. Try to make contact." "Absolutely not," Harris snapped. "It's too dangerous." "It's our only chance," Jeremy pleaded. "I have Korvac's information. I can convince them we're not a threat." For a long moment, Harris stared at Jeremy, weighing the options. Finally, he nodded. "You have one shot, right? Don't waste it." Minutes later, Jeremy's shuttle detached from the ship, flying towards the approaching Voxari fleet. His palms were sweaty on the controls as he opened a comm channel. "Voxari vessels, this is Jeremy Wright of Earth. I come in peace and wish to speak with your leaders about our shared history." Tense seconds ticked by. Then, a response. "Human shuttle, you are cleared to dock with the flagship." Jeremy let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. As he maneuvered towards the massive Voxari ship, he steeled himself for what was to come. Inside, he was escorted through twisting corridors to a vast, domed chamber. Arrayed before him were the members of the Voxari High Council, their alien features twisted in suspicion and anger. "Human," one of them spat, "you dare violate our space? Give us one reason not to destroy you and your ship right now." Jeremy swallowed hard, then began to speak. He told them everything, about Korvac, about their shared origins on Earth, about the potential for a new era of cooperation between their peoples. As he finished, the chamber erupted in heated debate. Some counselors dismissed his claims outright, while others argued for further investigation. Suddenly the doors burst open. Korvac stumbled in, flanked by guards. "Listen to him," Korvac shouted. "I'm not alone. Thousands of Voxari support reunification. If you refuse to see reason, we'll have no choice but to act." The council chamber descended into chaos. Jeremy watched, heart racing, as the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance. Finally, the lead counselor raised a hand for silence. "We'll agree to negotiations," he said grudgingly. "Korvac will serve as liaison. Human, you may return to your ship. We will be in contact to arrange formal talks." As Jeremy walked back to his shuttle, his mind reeled. They'd done it, taken the first step towards reconciliation, but he knew the real work was just beginning. Jeremy's shuttle docked with a metallic clang. He rushed onto the bridge, still catching his breath from the tense encounter with the Voxari High Council. "Commander Harris, we've made a breakthrough. The Voxari have agreed to—" "Right, we've got a situation." Harris cut him off, his face grim. "Earth just sent an urgent transmission. A Voxari faction has seized control of their planetary defense system. They're threatening to blow us out of the sky." Jeremy's elation evaporated. "What? Why?" Lieutenant Chen pulled up a holodisplay. "They call themselves isolationists, led by someone named Calrax. They're demanding we leave immediately and never return." "Damn it," Jeremy muttered. "They must be trying to keep the truth about our shared history under wraps. We can't let that happen." Harris nodded. Agreed. But we need to buy time. I'll open negotiations with this Calrax. As Harris engaged in tense communications, Jeremy paced the bridge. His mind raced, then it hit him. Korvac, he said. They'll go after him next. We have to get him out of there. Absolutely not, Harris snapped. It's too risky. Jeremy stood his ground. Sir, Korvac risked everything to help us. We can't abandon him. Plus, he's our best chance at resolving this peacefully. Harris considered for a long moment, then sighed. Fine, but make it quick and quiet. Jeremy assembled a small team, and they took a stealth shuttle back to the planet's surface. Using intel from Korvac's underground network, they infiltrated the capital city. They found the detention center, a towering structure of gleaming metal and force field barriers. Jeremy's team disabled the outer defenses and slipped inside. Alarms blared. Guards swarmed the corridors. Plasma bolts sizzled past Jeremy's head as he dove for cover. There! Shouted one of his team. Cell block C! They fought their way through, stunning guards left and right. Jeremy reached Korvac's cell and deactivated the force field. Jeremy? Korvac said, stunned. What are you doing here? Saving your ass, Jeremy replied, helping him up. Now let's move. They raced back the way they came, alarms howling all around them. As they rounded a corner, Jeremy came face to face with a tall, imposing Voxari. Calrax, he realized. The Voxari leader's eyes narrowed. Human filth, he spat. Calrax lunged, his powerful arms swinging. Jeremy ducked and weaved, barely avoiding the crushing blows. He managed to land a few strikes of his own, but Calrax shrugged them off. The Voxari caught Jeremy with a backhand, sending him sprawling. Calrax advanced, murder in his eyes. Jeremy's hand closed around a fallen guard's stun baton. As Calrax reached for him, Jeremy thrust the baton into the Voxari's midsection. Electricity crackled. Calrax convulsed and collapsed. Let's go, Jeremy shouted to his team. They sprinted for the exit, half carrying Korvac. As they reached their shuttle, the ground shook. Energy beams lanced into the sky. The defense system, Korvac cried. They've activated it. Jeremy threw himself into the pilot's seat and punched the throttle. The shuttle rocketed upward, weaving frantically as searing energy bolts filled the air around them. Hang on, Jeremy yelled. He pushed the engines past their limits, deploying every countermeasure they had. The shuttle bucked and shuddered under the assault. Finally, they broke through the atmosphere. The human ship loomed ahead, already turning to make the jump to light speed. With a final burst of acceleration, Jeremy's shuttle slipped into the docking bay seconds before the ship vanished into FTL. In the aftermath, as the adrenaline faded, Jeremy and Korvac sat in stunned silence. They'd escaped by the skin of their teeth, but the isolationists had shown their true colors. This is just the beginning, isn't it? Jeremy asked quietly. Korvac nodded, his expression grave. The road to reunification will not be easy, but we must try, for both our peoples. Jeremy clasped the Voxari's shoulder. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Jeremy and Korvac stood side by side on the bridge of the human vessel, watching the swirling patterns of faster-than-light travel through the view screen. The gravity of their situation burdened immensely on both of them. We've opened Pandora's box, Jeremy said, his voice barely above a whisper. Korvac nodded, his alien features etched with concern. The isolationists will stop at nothing to maintain their grip on power. We must act quickly. Jeremy turned to the communications array. First things first, Earth needs to know what's happening. He keyed in the encrypted channel to Earth's United Nations Security Council. The faces of world leaders appeared on screen, a mix of shock and disbelief evident as Jeremy explained the situation. An alien civilization, descended from humans? The U.S. president's eyes widened. This is unprecedented. Jeremy laid out the crisis unfolding on the Voxari homeworld, the threat posed by Calrax and his isolationist faction. The Chinese premier's brow furrowed. We cannot allow an advanced alien power to threaten Earth. We must strike first, while we still have the advantage. No, the German chancellor interjected. This is a chance for peaceful exchange, for humanity to learn from an advanced civilization. We cannot squander it with aggression. As the debate raged, Jeremy turned to Korvac. We need to act on our end too. Any ideas? Korvac's eyes lit up. The shipyards. If we can cripple their new warship, it will buy us time. Jeremy nodded, a plan forming. I'll assemble a strike team. Hours later, Jeremy crouched in the shadows of a massive Voxari construction dock, plasma rifle clutched to his chest. Beside him, a mix of human crew members and Voxari rebels waited for his signal. Now, Jeremy whispered. They burst from cover, sprinting across the open floor. Alarms blared as Voxari security forces poured in, energy weapons flashing. Jeremy dove behind a stack of crates, the smell of ozone filling his nostrils as plasma bolts sizzled past. He popped up, squeezing off short bursts, downing 2 guards. Plant the charges, he shouted to a nearby rebel. The Voxari nodded, sprinting toward the half-built warship. Energy beams crisscrossed the air around him. Jeremy provided covering fire, his rifle growing hot in his hands. The rebel reached the ship's hull, slapping explosive devices in place. Fall back, Jeremy ordered. They retreated under heavy fire, scrambling into their stealth shuttle. As they rocketed away from the shipyards, Jeremy hit the detonator. The charges exploded in a blinding flash. The unfinished warship buckled, collapsing in on itself. Secondary explosions rippled through the docks. We did it, Jeremy breathed, slumping in his seat. But their victory was short-lived. Reports flooded in of Calrax's retaliation. Martial law declared, rebels hunted down, cities in chaos. Jeremy's hands clenched into fists. They'd struck a blow, but the real battle was just beginning. The fate of 2 civilizations hung in the balance, and he knew the coming days would determine whether they found a path to peace or plunged into interstellar war. Jeremy pored over the data streams flooding the command center, his eyes burning from hours of intense focus. Korvac stood beside him, the Voxari's alien features unreadable. There, Korvac said, pointing to a blinking indicator. The research facility. Our operatives confirm it. Jeremy zoomed in on the holographic display, revealing a sprawling complex nestled in a remote mountain range. Heavily fortified, this won't be easy. It never is, Korvac replied. Hours later, under cover of darkness, Jeremy crouched behind a rocky outcropping overlooking the facility. His strike team, a mix of human commandos and Voxari rebels, fanned out around him. Remember, Jeremy whispered into his comm, non-lethal takedowns where possible. We need to gather intel. On his signal, they moved. Jeremy's heart pounded as they slipped past the outer perimeter, disabling sensor arrays and security cameras. A guard rounded the corner. Before he could raise the alarm, a human commando dropped him with a neural disruptor. They breached the main building, alarms blaring. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air. Jeremy ducked and weaved, stunning 2 Voxari guards with precision shots. This way, Korvac shouted, leading them deeper into the complex. They fought their way through winding corridors, the air thick with ozone and the sounds of battle. Finally, they reached a massive blast door. Cover me, Jeremy ordered, attaching a breach charge. The door exploded inward. As the smoke cleared, Jeremy's blood ran cold. The laboratory beyond was filled with rows of stasis tanks, each containing a writhing mass of sickly tendrils. By the gods, Korvac breathed. What have they done? Jeremy approached a nearby console, his fingers flying over the alien interface. His eyes widened as he decrypted the data. It's a bioweapon, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Designed to target human DNA. They mean to wipe us out completely. The implications hit him like a physical blow. The isolationists weren't just resisting reunification. They viewed humanity as an existential threat to be eliminated. Download everything, Jeremy ordered, tossing a data crystal to a nearby commando. Korvac, set the charges. We're burning this place to the ground. As Korvac's team rigged the facility to blow, Jeremy transmitted a tight beam message to their ship in orbit. Get this to Earth immediately. Top priority. They fought their way back to the extraction point, the facility erupting into flames behind them. As their shuttle broke atmosphere, Jeremy slumped in his seat, the weight of what they'd discovered crushing down on him. Days later, he stood before the UN Security Council, delivering the grim news. The chamber erupted into chaos. "We must strike now," the U.S. representative thundered, "before they can deploy this weapon against us." "And risk galactic war?" the Chinese delegate countered. "We'd be playing right into Calrax's hands." Jeremy raised his hands for silence. "There may be another way," he said. "A summit, face-to-face with Calrax himself." The room fell silent. Jeremy laid out his plan. A clandestine meeting on neutral ground. One last chance to pull back from the brink. It was a risky move, but in the end, they agreed. 2 weeks later, Jeremy's shuttle touched down on a barren moon in unclaimed space. A contingent of human and Voxari security forces surrounded them, weapons at the ready. Across the landing pad, another shuttle appeared. The hatch opened, and a towering Voxari emerged. Even at a distance, Jeremy could feel the hatred radiating from Calrax. They met in a hastily constructed prefab structure. Jeremy laid out his evidence, genetic markers, archaeological data, the undeniable proof of their shared ancestry. "We don't have to be enemies," Jeremy pleaded. "Think of what we could accomplish together." Calrax's eyes narrowed. "You are a plague," he spat. "A violent, primitive species that must be contained, or eliminated." The negotiations spiraled downward, neither side willing to budge. Just as Jeremy was ready to admit defeat, the ground shook. A deafening explosion tore through the complex. "Ambush!" Korvac shouted. Jeremy hit the deck as plasma bolts ripped through the air. Through the chaos, he saw Calrax pinned down behind a fallen support beam. Making a split-second decision, Jeremy army crawled towards the Voxari leader. "Come on," he shouted, extending his hand. "We have to get out of here." Calrax hesitated, confusion warring with mistrust on his alien features. Another explosion rocked the building. Debris rained down around them. Finally, Calrax took Jeremy's hand. Together, they scrambled towards the exit, Korvac and his rebels providing covering fire. Outside, Jeremy saw the true scope of the attack. Rogue Voxari ships strafed the landing pad, their own forces scattered and pinned down. "This way," Jeremy shouted, half-dragging Calrax towards a still intact shuttle. Korvac and a handful of others joined them, piling into the cramped craft. As they rocketed into orbit, Jeremy's mind raced. The summit had failed, but something unexpected had happened. For a brief moment, humans and Voxari, even Calrax himself, had fought side by side. It wasn't much, but it was a start. As rescue ships appeared on the scanners, Jeremy knew the real battle was just beginning. The extremists on both sides would stop at nothing to see this war ignited. But now, a seed of doubt had been planted, a flicker of common ground. The flicker of common ground Jeremy had glimpsed vanished in an instant. As the rescue ships approached, alarms blared throughout their shuttle. Korvac's eyes widened as he scanned the incoming data. "Jeremy, look at this," he said, voice tight with urgency. Jeremy leaned over, his stomach dropping as he processed the information. The attack hadn't been a simple ambush. It was part of a larger, more sinister plot. "We need to get back to the command center. Now," Jeremy ordered. Hours later, they stood before a holo display, faces grim as they pieced together the full scope of the threat. The bioweapons facility data flashed before them, revealing a chilling truth. "A rogue faction within Calrax's own regime," Korvac muttered, mandibles clicking in agitation. "They're not just isolationists. They want to wipe out humanity entirely." Jeremy's fist clenched. "And they're willing to risk galactic war to do it." A ping from Korvac's communicator interrupted them. The Voxari's eyes narrowed as he read the message. "My contacts identified the mastermind," Korvac said. "Orlac, a geneticist. Brilliant, but completely unhinged." Jeremy paced, mind racing. "We need to act fast. If Orlac deploys that bioweapon..." He trailed off, the implications too horrific to voice. Jeremy knew what he had to do next, but it wouldn't be easy. Over the next days, Jeremy engaged in tense, encrypted communications with Earth's leaders. He laid out the situation in stark terms, pushing for a radical solution. "We need to work with Calrax," Jeremy argued, facing a wall of skeptical faces on the console. "It's the only way to stop Orlac before it's too late." Heated debate erupted, but in the end, they saw reason. Secret back-channel talks began, with Jeremy and Korvac serving as intermediaries. In a secure bunker deep beneath the Voxari capital, Jeremy faced Calrax across a table laden with holographic displays. The Voxari leader's face was unreadable, but Jeremy sensed the weight of the moment. "We both know the stakes," Jeremy said, leaning forward. "Orlac and his cult must be stopped." Calrax's eyes narrowed, but he nodded slowly. "Agreed. What do you propose?" They worked through the night, hammering out a strategy. As dawn broke, a daring plan took shape. Days later, Jeremy crouched in the shadows outside Orlac's main research facility. Human Special Forces operatives flanked him, weapons at the ready. In the distance, explosions lit up the night sky as Voxari rebels assaulted Orlac's underground base. "Team 2 in position," a voice crackled over Jeremy's comm. "Copy," Jeremy whispered. "On my mark." He took a deep breath, steadying himself for what was to come. "Execute!" They burst from cover, breaching charges detonating with thunderous force. Jeremy led the charge into the facility, plasma bolts sizzling past his head. Cultist guards swarmed to meet them, eyes wild with fanatical zeal. Jeremy ducked and weaved, his rifle spitting death as they fought their way deeper into the complex. They reached the main lab, and Jeremy's blood ran cold. Orlac stood before a bank of computers, a manic grin splitting his alien features. "You're too late," Orlac cackled, slamming his hand down on a glowing panel. Alarms blared. Containment seals ruptured. Jeremy watched in horror as a sickly green mist began to fill the chamber. "The virus!" Korvac shouted. "He's released it!" Chaos erupted. Human and Voxari alike began to convulse, their bodies twisting in grotesque ways. Jeremy's stomach lurched as he watched a soldier's arm elongate, skin bubbling and reforming. Through the madness, Jeremy spotted Orlac slipping away through a side door. Without hesitation, he gave chase. "Korvac!" Jeremy shouted over his shoulder. "Secure the lab! I'm going after Orlac!" He sprinted down twisting corridors, the sounds of battle echoing all around. Ahead, he caught glimpses of Orlac and a group of devoted followers racing for a hangar bay. Jeremy burst through the doors just in time to see Orlac's sleek ship lifting off. He fired desperately, but the craft was already rocketing skyward. "Damn it!" Jeremy snarled, slapping his comm unit. "Korvac, Orlac's escaping. We need air support now." He commandeered a nearby shuttle, pushing the engines to their limit as he gave chase. The Voxari atmosphere fell away, replaced by the inky blackness of space. A furious battle raged in orbit. Human and Voxari ships, once enemies, now fought side by side against Orlac's cultist fleet. Energy beams crisscrossed the void as Jeremy weaved through the chaos, never losing sight of his quarry. With a burst of acceleration, Jeremy's shuttle slammed into the side of Orlac's ship. Warning klaxons blared as the hull breached, but Jeremy paid them no heed. He magnetized his boots and pushed off, floating through the near-zero gravity towards the bridge. The airlock hissed open. Jeremy found himself face-to-face with Orlac, the mad scientist's hands wrapped around a pulsing alien device. "The gene seeder," Orlac hissed, eyes wild. "One push, and humanity's genetic legacy is erased forever." Jeremy lunged forward, grappling with Orlac for control of the device. They tumbled through the ship's corridors, alarms blaring as systems failed around them. With a final, desperate heave, Jeremy wrenched the gene seeder from Orlac's grasp. He smashed it against a bulkhead, but not before Orlac's talon-like finger activated the launch sequence. Jeremy's eyes widened as he saw the device powering up, a sickly glow emanating from its core. In that split second, he made his choice. He sprinted for the nearest airlock, device clutched to his chest. The door slid open, and Jeremy hurled the gene seeder into the void of space with all his might. A blinding flash lit up the darkness. Jeremy felt a wave of searing heat wash over him as the blast struck his unprotected body. The searing heat engulfed Jeremy's unprotected form, his skin blistering and peeling away in an instant. He screamed in agony as the blast flung him back into the airlock. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was Korvac's face, mandibles clicking in panic. Jeremy awoke to the sterile hum of medical equipment. His entire body felt wrong, alien. He tried to speak, but only a guttural growl escaped his throat. "Don't try to move," a human doctor said, her face pale. "The pathogen, it's changing you at the cellular level." Jeremy's eyes widened as he caught sight of his arm. The skin had taken on a mottled, scaly texture, his fingers elongated into sharp talons. "What's happening to me?" he managed to rasp. The doctor's lips tightened. "Your DNA is being rewritten. If we can't stop it, you'll become something else, something not human." Days passed in a haze of pain and horrific transformation. Jeremy's body twisted and warped, bones cracking and reforming. He caught glimpses of himself in reflective surfaces, a nightmarish fusion of human and Voxari features. As his mind began to slip away, Jeremy made a desperate plea. "Korvac," he growled, voice barely recognizable. "The Voxari gene therapy. It's our only chance." Korvac's mandibles twitched nervously. "Jeremy, the procedure is highly experimental. The odds of survival—" "Do it!" Jeremy snarled. "I won't become a monster." The operating theater bustled with activity as Voxari surgeons prepared their equipment. Korvac placed a clawed hand on Jeremy's mutated shoulder. "We'll do everything we can, my friend," Korvac said softly. As the anesthesia took hold, Jeremy's thoughts drifted to Orlac. The gene seeder's destruction should have killed the fanatic, but something nagged at Jeremy's fading consciousness. In the twisted wreckage of Orlac's ship, a cocoon of pulsing energy surrounding a Voxari form. The mad scientist's eyes snapped open, filled with hatred and purpose. Orlac gathered his surviving zealots, their numbers few, but their conviction unshaken. They moved through the shadows, evading patrols with ease. An orbital research station loomed before them. Orlac's mandibles clicked in anticipation. "Our new genesis begins here," he hissed. Alarms blared as the cultists swarmed the facility. Scientists fell screaming, their bodies torn apart by plasma fire and alien claws. Orlac strode purposefully to the main lab, his followers securing the perimeter. "Begin the synthesis," Orlac commanded, interfacing with the Voxari computers. "We will cleanse this galaxy of the human plague once and for all." On Earth, tensions reached a boiling point. The UN Security Council chamber erupted into chaos. "We cannot allow these abominations to spread," the Russian delegate shouted, thumping his hand on the table. "We must strike now while we still can." The Chinese representative's face hardened. "And risk Orlac unleashing his weapon in retaliation? We need a surgical strike, not carpet bombing." As the argument raged, Jeremy's life hung in the balance. Korvac's surgeons worked tirelessly, their alien technology interfacing with Jeremy's mutated form. Hours passed. The lead surgeon's mandibles clicked rapidly as he examined the readouts. "It's working," he breathed. "The mutation has been halted." Jeremy's eyes fluttered open. His body felt different, powerful. He flexed his arm, watching in fascination as the limb shifted, adapting to his thoughts. "What did you do to me?" Jeremy asked, his voice a mix of wonder and apprehension. Korvac's compound eyes gleamed. "We saved your life, my friend, but you've been changed. Your DNA now contains elements of both our species." Jeremy stood, marveling at his newfound strength and agility. He caught his reflection in a nearby screen, still recognizably human but with subtle alien features. "These abilities," Jeremy said, clenching his fist, "I can use them to stop Orlac." Korvac's mandibles clicked worriedly. "Jeremy, we don't fully understand what's happened to you. Your new powers are unpredictable, possibly unstable." Jeremy's eyes hardened with grit. It doesn't matter, we're out of time. Orlac has to be stopped, whatever the cost. Jeremy's newfound abilities surged through him as he stepped out of the medical bay. His heightened senses buzzed with unfamiliar input, every surface alive with textures and scents he'd never noticed before. He flexed his hand, watching in fascination as the skin rippled and shifted, adapting to his thoughts. "This is incredible," Jeremy breathed, his voice a mix of awe and trepidation. Korvac clicked his mandibles nervously. "We must proceed with caution, Jeremy. Your hybrid state is unprecedented." As word of Jeremy's transformation spread, reactions varied wildly. In the mess hall, he overheard heated debates between human and Voxari crew members. "He's a bridge between our species," a young Voxari technician argued passionately. "This could be the key to lasting peace." An older human officer scoffed. "Or he could be a ticking time bomb. How do we know he won't lose control?" Jeremy's enhanced hearing picked up whispered conversations throughout the ship. "Abomination," some hissed. "Miracle," others proclaimed. The weight of their conflicting expectations pressed down on him. Days passed, and tensions escalated. Jeremy found himself under constant scrutiny, his every move analyzed and debated. During a routine briefing, a hardline Voxari commander interrupted proceedings. "We cannot allow this hybrid to roam freely," the commander snarled, mandibles clicking aggressively. "He must be contained, studied, for all our safety." Shouts erupted from both sides. Jeremy's head pounded as the cacophony of voices overwhelmed his sensitive hearing. He stumbled from the room, desperate for escape. In his quarters, Jeremy paced restlessly. His skin itched, his bones ached with a deep, primal urge he couldn't explain. He needed answers, needed to understand what he'd become. A memory surfaced, Korvac's tales of their shared ancestry, whispered in a hidden Voxari colony. Without a word to anyone, Jeremy slipped away, commandeering a small shuttle. The remote Voxari world loomed before him, a swirling marble of blues and greens. As Jeremy's shuttle touched down, a group of curious young Voxari approached. Their compound eyes widened at his strange appearance. "You're the hybrid," one exclaimed. "Is it true you can change your shape?" Jeremy smiled, demonstrating by elongating his fingers into Voxari-like talons. The youths chittered excitedly, peppering him with questions about Earth and human culture. As they talked, an elderly Voxari shuffled forward, leaning heavily on a gnarled staff. "I sense great turmoil within you, young one," the elder rasped. "Perhaps it is time for you to seek the wisdom of our ancestors." The elder explained the ancient rite, a vision quest to unlock the genetic memories encoded in Voxari DNA. Jeremy's pulse quickened. Could this be the key to understanding his new nature? In a sacred grove, Jeremy lay back on a bed of phosphorescent moss. The Voxari elders surrounded him, voices rising in an otherworldly chant. As Jeremy closed his eyes, tendrils of psychic energy probed his mind. Suddenly, he was falling, tumbling through a kaleidoscope of fragmented memories. He saw a primordial Earth, felt the fear and desperation of an ancient people facing extinction. Massive ships rose into the sky, but not everyone could escape. Jeremy's consciousness careened through time, witnessing the divergent evolution of those left behind and those who fled to the stars. The weight of millennia pressed down on him, threatening to crush his sanity. He screamed, but no sound emerged. His very being fractured, splintering into countless shards of human and Voxari identity. Jeremy clawed desperately for something solid to anchor himself to, but found only the swirling chaos of genetic memory. In that moment of utter despair, Jeremy made a choice. Instead of fighting the maelstrom, he surrendered to it. His consciousness expanded, touching the collective awareness of countless ancestors. An eternity passed in an instant. Jeremy felt the burning shame of those who abandoned Earth, the fierce pride of those who survived. He experienced their joy, their sorrow, their hope that one day their sundered peoples would reunite. With a thunderous mental clash, Jeremy's fragmented selves collided. Human and Voxari, past and present, all merged into a singular, transcendent whole. His eyes snapped open, glowing with an inner light. The Voxari elders stumbled back, awed by the transformation before them. Jeremy rose, his form shifting fluidly between human and Voxari aspects. He radiated an aura of serene power that left the onlookers speechless. "I understand now," Jeremy said, his voice resonating with newfound wisdom. "We were never truly separate. The rift between our people was an illusion, born of fear and misunderstanding." News of Jeremy's revelation spread like wildfire. Humans and Voxari alike flocked to hear him speak, to witness the living proof of their shared heritage. Even the most hardened skeptics found their prejudices crumbling in the face of Jeremy's transcendent presence. In a historic address to both species, Jeremy shared the full, unvarnished truth of their intertwined history. He spoke of the ancient cataclysm, the painful separation, and the long road that led them back to each other. "We are one people," Jeremy proclaimed, his form shifting between human and Voxari aspects as he spoke. "Born from the same primordial source, our fates have always been and will always be intertwined." As Jeremy's words echoed across the cosmos, a profound shift began. Centuries of distrust and hostility gave way to a new era of cooperation and understanding. The reunification that once seemed impossible now felt inevitable. Jeremy stood at the forefront of this new age, a living bridge between two branches of the same cosmic tree. The path ahead would not be easy, but for the first time in eons, humans and Voxari walked it together.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.